do, like hardest?
Straining? Like hard?
Straining on your throat.
Straining voice? Well, crocodile was certainly one of them. Because... I need to sit down. You know? Could we do that again? I don't think so. And I did another show where I can't remember the name of it. But I had the character screamed everything. When you scream a lot, that's usually the hardest thing. You know, if you're doing like Lord Death, he was easy. You know, once we found the voice, because he's not screaming. But it's just when you're screaming, it just really rips your voice apart. And that's why when I go up to Funimation, I do some of these characters, they know that when they yell a lot, they'll save that session for the end of the day. Because it's, you know, otherwise I walk in and go, all right, I'm ready to do your session. You know, what the hell happened to your voice? I was just doing crocodile. Oh dear. That's not good. So yes, anything that screams is hard. So, and if we do that, we can really only do it for a couple hours at a time. You know, then we have to stop, because otherwise we'll bleed. No good. So, yeah, anyone? Do I know Dan Green? I do not. Is he in the room? Is he a voice actor? Oh, yeah, no, I don't. Sorry. Question over there?
Do you have any tips for people who want to become voice actors?
Yeah. Anyone else? Yeah, I mean, you know, like I said earlier, that was one of the first questions. You have to really live where they do it, you know. Technology today is great. Nowadays you really can work anywhere, but with doing anime, because you're doing what's called ADR, which is audio dialogue replacement, you need to be where you can see the video as well. And it's not quite there where you can do that over ISDN lines or internet where it's real time, but soon it will be. It'll be good and bad, because soon, you know, it'll open it up to, like, we can hire somebody from anywhere in the world, but then that means we don't need to call John in, because we can hire that guy over in LA, you know, and that kind of thing. So it'll be good and bad. Yeah. I'm sorry, one more time? Your drama teacher hates your voice acting, or just voice acting in general? Well, I'd fire that drama teacher and get a new one. There's you know, there's some people that think that the only acting is done on stage. You can only do acting if you're doing William Shakespeare. You know, voice acting it's a talent. I mean, it's a skill, you know. And chances are the reason she hates it or he hates it is because it can't do it. Unless it's you. I'm sorry, I don't mean to offend you. I don't know, because voice acting is just acting. I mean, it's like I was saying, you know, when you're in the booth, you're acting. You're not just standing there. You have to physically manifest it and to get the right performance. So you're acting. You might as well just put a camera in. You know, it's the same thing. Yeah. Acting. Yeah?
You were saying earlier that there's someone you wouldn't let your kids watch. What's the most explicit thing you've done?
I received oral pleasure one time in a video, and I had to react to that pleasure. My wife did not see it, nor will she ever know about it. And that's also when we're doing we're doing this show, and this actress by the name of Stephanie Whittles from Houston. Do you know Stephanie Whittles? Oh, maybe that's She's a very talented actress, but she had to do a self-gratification scene. And she was like, okay, I'll do this, but could you all turn around? Because you're sitting there just going. So those are very tough scenes to do. You know. So that's, but you know, it's in the show. You can't just. All right, how do you follow that question? Yeah, apparently you can. All right.
For Andrew, what's your opinion on licensing anime as an out for some reason, gathering a cult following with, say, English fans? An example, let's say, the Second Strain, which was big confirmation last year.
My feeling on it is, in general, if I can, I will. Nowadays, anyway. Stuff like Outlaw Star, which has been actually a US release and such, and Australian release, etc. I would do titles in Japan which have built up a following and been out for several years. There's one or two I really love. I mean, on my wish list. I mean, don't take this as a it will happen or anything ever. There's things like No Dame Canterbury are big on my list of ones which have never had a release, but I would like. Anyone here like that show?
Yes.
Oh dear, there's only two. This would be why I haven't gone for it just now, perhaps.
It's a gamble.
Some gambles just you shouldn't take. But
you know, one thing though, and I don't know if it's still like this, but I know when at ADV, and I'd like you to actually comment on this, but you know, a lot of times when you go to get a show to license it, the Japanese will say, oh, you would like this show aired here? Well, we'd love to license it to you. However, if you want to license it, you also must get these shows that are not quite as good, but they package them together because by themselves those shows may not ever get licensed, but they can, if a show is really popular, like an Air Gear or Sergeant Frog, they can say, well, you can have that, but you also have to take this, and that's the only way you're going to get this. You know what I mean?
yeah, the package deal system, some companies still use it. I mean, there's one or two very infamous ones where you can't get one item without taking several. It's in fact been drilled into some new sales stuff. They have to sell something else with a big show. Like, I mean, not every, if it's a small show the company wants, fine, sell it to them as a single. But if they want, you know, Sergeant Frog or something large, and you know, then you have to sell these crappy titles along with it, or there's no deal on it. It's not as prevalent as it used to be back in the day where you were paying. I mean, do any of you guys follow Anime News Network, for example? I mean, its podcasts are normally fantastic, and one time they did get someone who used to be in charge of Genian's sales and licensing, etc., in to talk about things. And Zach and co really went to town on him. They got some massive figures. I mean, the figures they paid for Trigon, I mean, go listen to it yourselves, but it was in excess of sort of $250,000 an episode, which is it's an amazingly large amount. That's multituded over a tune of 100 times the amount it normally would be, etc. But in those days, it was very common to try and build up that kind of package mentality to make those kind of prices. Then when the subprime, in fact, actually part of ADV's problem was it did gamble on the subprime mortgage. It didn't know it was doing that at that point. It just seemed like an incredibly good financial strategy. Oh, how wrong everyone was there. But so they were in fact actually early victims of it before it became known as the subprime mortgage crisis to an extent. But after that sort of bubble burst, the prices deflated quickly, and that's when you start to see like shifting content as well to an extent. The package deals kind of went at that kind of point. It became a case of we've got to sell these titles however we can, sell them individually, but just sell them all.
Right, and you know, I mean, one of the things that ADV did early on, when they started, was, you know, they were sort of leading the pack in the States, and they were buying up everything they could. So they didn't mind these package deals. They were like, sure, because also, you know, the Japanese, it was a lot cheaper, because it just wasn't that big a demand, and as the demand grew, you know, in the States, it was, and this is where ADV really worked out well, was they were getting all these shows, you know, Chrono Crusade and Razafon, and you know, then they had, of course, Evangelion and Blue Seed and XL Saga and a lot of these shows. But they had a lot of shows, you know, just girl power and shows that weren't necessarily that big, and Wandava style, that they just picked up. But they had got all these titles because the Japanese were like, well, you got to buy these and you got to buy these, and they're like, okay. Well, what they ended up doing though is they had just amassed this gigantic catalog. And that's when they decided, hey, we're going to start the Anime Network, because we've got thousands of shows, and we've got our own content. And the problem is that the market was rising like this, you know, just astronomically. It would roll over on itself. You know, there's 100,000 fans this year, 200,000 next year, 500,000 the year after that, you know, 1 million after that, and then, you know, if history is your lesson, you're going to go, well, after that, it's going to be 2 billion. Well, what happened was it went like that, and then they got stuck with all this stuff. Meantime, the Japanese are going, hey, you're selling lots of our stuff. Well, we're going to raise our prices now. And now it becomes $250,000 an episode, and you're like, well, wait a minute. No one, you know, we were buying it at $5,000 an episode 2 months ago, you know, and it's it just got way wacky and way out of control, and you know, it's now trying to, I guess, like you said, level itself out. But and then also, I think that in the early days, there were certainly people that wanted to see the shows they wanted to see, a Dragon Ball or Full Metal or something like that, but because anime was really so new, at least in the States, ADV was able to thrive because people just wanted to see anything. So it didn't matter what it was. Oh, there it is, there's a new show, grab it, let's go watch it. Now, you may not like it, but you bought it, you know, so they made their money. So, but I think now people are much more, what's the word?
Cautious.
Cautious, yeah, cautious and more buyer beware, and well, I'm not really sure. And the other thing, of course, too, and you can talk on this if you like, but is with the internet and piracy and all that kind of thing now, it's you have a much more discriminating buyer because they can look at anything they want right now, preview it ahead of time, and decide if they like it or not.
As a kid, I never stopped